Hello and welcome to episode 14 of the Play Up podcast with me, Scott McLachlan. And I'm again joined today by an abundance of punditry from fellow Pompey fans and good friends, including Jamie, Tim, Reece and Phil. So there's five of us today to discuss Pompey's journey in the Championship this season. We have three matches to cover, with the first being a very strong showing to get a point at home to Sheffield United, with Pompey nearly winning it at the death with a great chance with debutant Farrell, who had a very impressive first start. And following that, a 0-0 draw, Pompey travelled to Stoke with high hopes that they could continue that good performance against one of the teams also struggling at the bottom of the table. And it's fair to say that the team suffered a disastrous 90 minutes. And despite equalising in the first half, were then eventually hammered 6-1. But only 3 days later, Pompey were back at Fratton Park to play Oxford United, and Mousinho made a number of changes to the team, not least dropping Will Norris, not just from the team, but completely from the squad, to hand Schmidt his first starting goal of the season. It took just 3 minutes in a whirlwind start to win a penalty, but Sorensen missed the chance to give Pompey an early lead. Pompey did go ahead early in the second half, and Murphy combined again with Omani for the second time in 3 days. Pompey surged on, and only a post and a goal line clearance stopped them, making it 2-0. But it's typical of the way the Pompey season is going that Oxford scored from their only shot on target in the second half. So 1-1 it finished. Good evening, gentlemen. How are we all today?
Good, thank you.
Good evening.
Good.
Peeling.
Peeling, yes. You've all been abroad, apart from Phil, who went to London, I believe, for the Sheffield United game. But so I was the only one who was actually at Sheffield United. And it was an encouraging game, and certainly there was no indication of what was going to happen a few days later at Stoke. But it was a battling performance, and there was a hair's width between the two teams, and the Sheffield United manager was very, very glowing in his praise about Pompey, and said that if we played like that, we would definitely get some wins and definitely stay up. So, did anyone see any highlights and like to make any comment? I mean, Farrell had a great debut, I thought, and we seemed to be far more compact than we had been in the previous 6 or 7 games. Obviously, not conceding a goal for the second time in the season. Obviously, only Luton, when we struggled to score against them against 10 men, we didn't concede. So that was encouraging at that point. So, what do we think?
Yeah, I mean, I was at the game as well, and I thought it was a tight game, but I think we went toe to toe with them. We matched them as best we can. They probably had pretty much the better chances throughout the game, apart from Farrell's one right at the end. But it was an encouraging performance. I mean, you can't deny that, and the team looked so much balanced and better with Farrell in the team, and I was quietly encouraged. I mean, they're another Premiership team that came down last season. They're unbeaten still, I think, in the league. So, and I think the only are we like the only team who've taken points off them in the last few games as well. So that game in itself, I was really happy and really buoyed by the performance.
We were at that point, because Farrell would also let's not forget was up against Raksaki in that game, who is probably one of the quickest players I've ever seen live recently. So not only was it his debut, but he was up against a very, very formidable opponent as well.
Yeah, I think we're quite happy to see him go off, weren't we, as well, when he went off Raksaki, which I was quite pleased with. And I thought that let Farrell loose a little bit and able to get forward a bit more. And yeah, agreed. Only saw it on TV, but I thought he had a good debut. So it's disappointing to see him out injured for the next couple of games.
I wouldn't have liked to have seen Raksaki again up against Ogilvy.
No.
I mean, Ogilvy's obviously got his good points, but defending against someone like Raksaki would be a cruel thing to watch.
Yeah, I mean, he must have done it before though, when Raksaki was with Charlton. So. Or whether Raksaki played on the left instead of right. I can't remember, to be honest. Last season seemed such a long time ago that I really can't remember much about our opponents. But you're right, Phil. I don't think Ogilvy would have relished the challenge as much as Farrell did. And Farrell seemed to be very, very clever on the ball. First touch was excellent on the half turn, pace going forward and backwards. And crucially, we had the two best chances with Pack's looping free kick, which nearly crept into the top corner, and the header from the corner by Farrell with just 2 or 3 minutes to go, which surely would have won us the game if we'd scored then. So we were all encouraged by the point at the time, but then of course life comes at you really fast, and then we head up to the Potteries and meet Stoke. So I was surprised he had Blair in. I was kind of pleased a little bit that he'd given him his first start. He clearly doesn't fancy Silvera, as does nobody here either. But it just seemed that Pompey, to a man, just didn't turn up from the first minute. It was such a bizarre game. You know, they hit the bar inside 2 or 3 minutes, had 2 or 3 chances, well saved by Norris, but we just didn't seem to have any cohesion or game plan. It was just a strange watch from minute 1 to minute 90.
It could have been a few down in the first few minutes, really, couldn't we? It could have been sort of 4-0 by the time they actually scored. So, after a disastrous start, to get back in at a 1-0, you're thinking, oh, come on, let's get a foothold in the game. But yeah, the preceding few minutes before half time.
So what do we think? What do we all think went wrong? I mean, I've heard some people say, especially when we were at the game around us on Saturday against Oxford, that they won't score 6 goals again. That was a freak. Pompey will never do that again this season. But I'm not so sure, to be honest. I think it was such a worrying implosion of the team that alarm bells were massively ringing.
I think it was a mental thing. I think they went into that game. Everyone talked about the first 7 games. Everybody said, you get those first 7 games out of the way. If we get a couple of points a few points on the board, sets ourselves up nicely. And I think they went into that, it appeared to me that they went into that game thinking, well, we've got those games out of the way. This is where it all starts. And I just think, I wouldn't say we didn't take the game seriously enough, but I think the mindset appeared to be all wrong. Because we didn't, the way we hassled, the way we've pressed against other teams, none of that was there. It was almost like, right, these boys are here for the taking, and they demonstrated that they weren't, and we certainly weren't the ones to do it.
My mind strengthened the squad enough with immediate quality, and it's so and I'm going to put this to you guys. So, have we signed a better striker? Just yes or no. Have we signed a better striker than Colby Bishop?
No.
You've all hesitated. Yes, it's either a no or a maybe, isn't it? It's not a definite yes.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say. So have we signed a better midfielder? A definite better midfielder than Marlon Pack.
But the thing is, you're judging new players after 7 games, where you're judging.
I am.
After 40 games, and Colby Bishop has 40 games. But as of now, the answer is clearly no, because they're not doing any better.
Cool. No, that's all I can do. That's all I can do is judge on today. And again, with a defender, have we signed a better defender than Paul or Shaughnessy? Again, I'm going to answer for you because we all know the answer is no. I mean, like even the defender we did sign, Williams at right back, he's struggling to get into the squad because of Swanson. And okay, I know that they are new players. I know they came in late, but and I also know that Football Manager isn't real. But whenever I'm playing Football Manager, the first thing I do is I sign a new player that's better than the players that I've got in each of those 3 positions, because to me that's how you stay up. You improve your squad, and I think at the moment the only other player to me our best player at the moment is Josh Murphy, but he is a like for like with Abu Kamara. So for me, we've still got a top League One squad, and we've got a lot of potential players who might come good, but is potential going to keep us in? Is potential may or may not come good, and so I'm terrified now for the rest of the season because I just don't think we've signed immediate quality. We've got potential yet, fine, but have we got actual quality today that can do it? And that is how I felt after the Stoke squad. And I mentioned that to Tim, and I think, Tim, you possibly got a follow-up about how that's failed us in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the the conceding 6 at this point in the season reminded me a little bit of when we got tonked 6-0 by Arsenal back in the 80s after going up. And, had we really sort of signed players to take us that next level, and the team fought bravely that season and ultimately got relegated. So, I kind of sort of drew a little similarity from that, although it is a very distant memory.
No, that is a very good analogy. That is a very good comparison, really, because even the step up from the first division as it was, not the Championship, to the Premier League. Well, it wasn't the Premier League until 3 or 4 years later, but the top division was still quite a big jump and a step. I mean, it's not as great as it is now, but it's still it's still a big jump. And I think both you and Jamie are right to draw the comparison there with that league. We signed Ian Baird, who was absolute toilet that season. I think he scored once
One goal
from about
away at
1
QPR.
yard at QPR. Yeah, and that's but that can happen, isn't it? Is history repeating itself? Have we made some signings that are just not going to have the impact now that we want them to?
I think Blair's absolutely case in point. I don't want to dig Harvey Blair out because he may go on to be a fantastic player, but he hadn't played a minute of big boys football. When he signed for us, he's not played in any divisions. He's not played in any divisions lower than the. He hasn't played in any divisions of professional football at this point in his career. And I know we were looking at him last summer. If we'd signed him last summer and he'd played, half the season in League One, he'd be a much better player this season. But he's learning the game, and you're not going to learn the game when you're playing 20 minutes here, 45 minutes there, and we can't afford to have players sort of learning on the job. He looks out of his depth, and he doesn't look like he's ready for a season of hard physical football in the Championship. And you can say that about some of the other players we've brought in. Sorensen looks like he's sort of floundering a bit, but then he would be because he's not played at Championship level. In fact, we're quite short of players that have played at Championship level. You said about strikers earlier. We don't have a single striker on the books, including Colby Bishop, who played at Championship level. So it's all hopeful. It's like we were saying about the way we play football. So it's all very hopeful.
Yeah.
And some of these players could develop into really good Championship players or better. But we can't afford to. We just can't afford to be in a position where they're learning on the job.
And I don't want to point. I certainly don't want to point the finger. But I've got a follow-up question to this, and that is: so then, whose fault is that we're in this position? Because at the start of the season, or at the end of last season, both the manager and Rich Hughes have said the Eisners have given us the money. We've got everything that we've asked for. So is it? Has Rich Hughes not asked for enough? And I know he's done us proud. I'm not going to, I don't slate anybody. And and obviously we're all big fans, and we want all of our prospects to come good, and we're sure they will. Obviously we all love the squad, and we all want our prospects to do well, and hopefully they will. I think I've said in the past famously, it took, I think, Harry Redknapp between 8 and 12 games to get his squad to gel, so hopefully ours will. But if the manager and Rich Hughes have both said that the Eisners have given them everything that they've asked for, and that the money is there to strengthen the squad, then whose fault is it that we haven't strengthened the squad with immediate quality, which you need when you go up?
Well, we talked about the players not having operated at this level. Mousinho's not managed at this level, and Rich Hughes hasn't recruited at this level before. So again, completely unproven at this level.
I think there's other teams like that, isn't it? QPR are like that. I think their manager was saying we haven't signed anybody with champion experience. But I mean, I think it's easy to talk now and try and compare over a longer season. Really, actually, at the moment, yes, it does not look good. But the time when you judge everything will be at the end of the season, and whether we stayed up or not. And I think pretty much, if you talk to fans before the season, I would say the general feeling was they're quietly optimistic. They thought the signings were good, and we thought we were going to have a really good go and certainly stay up. I don't think there were many predicting relegation, whereas now you look at it, we're in a relegation fight because we're in relegation battles, and we don't. But you say what you're saying is right. The players are not performing at a championship level, otherwise we'd be further up the table. But I mean, I think between now and Christmas is a really, really critical time for us, and players have got to step up. Otherwise, we will be going down. I think money wise, we've spent some money, but let's face it, how much did Kamara go for? Was it 4 million, 4.5? Was it? We just can't compete with those kind of wages, and to be fair, and those transfer fees. And to be fair, we weren't aiming to. We were looking. Our focus is on the bottom half of the division, whatever they are, and to compete with that. And so at the moment, we're not, and we're getting dragged into it. So I wouldn't say I'm slitting wrists, but once you get down there, it's all well and good saying get your 7 games out of the way, but once you're down there, it's really hard to kind of pull yourself out. And especially as Phil said, he hasn't got much experience at this level. I personally I didn't think it would actually matter, but yes, I think now he's down there, it's hugely important, and this is where the team and the players are going to have to pull together. And you got to say now, there's a chance we're going to get relegated, because at the moment we don't see signs of shoots of recovery, shall we say?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you're right. Motivation as well is the key thing, and morale. When you're top of the league, it must be easier to keep the team motivated because they want to go up and they want to win the league. But when they're bottom of the league, does hopefully he does, but does the manager have what it takes to keep that?
Well, I mean, it was interesting, the Sheffield United game. Something that I didn't mention earlier is that we had that little discussion about who should start as centre backs, and he'd actually put in Shockley in ahead of McIntyre, and of course Shockley went out during the warm up, and McIntyre was back in. So that's an interesting. Whether that's always been his plan, that he plays Paul and Shockley, and there's McIntyre and Towler now because Abani is injured out for the season, are backups. We'll see. He's clearly abandoned his. I want a left footer on the left and a right footer on the right, because he needs to play his best players, whether they whatever favourite foot they've got. So yeah, it was the Stoke debacle. I think he really. I mean, you mentioned Blair, Phil. I thought he hung. I was really disappointed with Mousinho. I thought he hung Blair out to dry. It was just not the right game to put him into, as you say, with the pressure of right. Okay, we've got a chance of 3 points here. They're struggling. They got a new manager. They haven't scored many goals, and he chucks Blair in on that right. And I mean, it was no way his fault, but it was a combination of those kind of things, decisions, and attitude, maybe that just it just all crumbled within seconds of the kickoff, and it never recovered. I mean, obviously we did well to get back in and equalise, but then we switched off for the next 25 minutes and 5 more goals going, and it was just it was such a hard watch. It was horrible, absolutely horrible. But I mean, if we go on to Oxford, so something I think I've mentioned on here before, but I've certainly said to other people, is that a formation change at home. I thought he should play wing backs, so it was good to see that he did make a formation change. So I think we played 3-4-3 with defensive wing backs, not attacking wing backs. So obviously you had Williams on one side and Murphy on the other. So maybe a bit more of not Murphy, who played on the left there, because it wasn't Ogilvie. Can't remember now, but he basically had 3 forwards. So Murphy, Sorensen, and Omani, and certainly in the first half, the 3 of them were working very, very closely around that box. We didn't have just one forward up front with a number 10 trying to move forward to join him, and say, as we've said before, Sadie does that really, really well and links up play from midfield to the front 3 really, really well. So the 4 of them were working really, really well in parts. So it was interesting that Mousinho can make changes. He's not wedded to his 4-2-3-1. And I thought Sorensen had a pretty decent game against Oxford. Marnie obviously got his second goal in 2 games, which is obviously a positive, talking about strikers earlier. So perhaps there is a positive from that Oxford. Perhaps we've stabled the ship a little bit, and So what did you guys see in the Oxford game that gave you encouragement that we can go to QPR and build on that result, which we should have won? We should have won that game. We didn't. That's just the way our season's going. But what other positives did you guys see?
I thought Murphy was obviously a positive, although I've got a guy sits in front of me who has a pathological hatred of wingers, and we, as far as he's concerned, we've never had any good wingers. And when Murphy got what I thought was quite a deserved man of the match, I thought it was a toss up between him and Sadie. Steve, who sits in front of me, had his head in his hands. So what have you had your hands for? He goes, he's been shit. He's been shit all game. I said, but I said, oh, have you watched the same game as me? He goes, tell me one thing that he's done in this game. Tell me one thing. I said, well, where did the cross come from? It's a shit cross. It's a shit cross. It's a good finish, but it's a shit cross. But so I've got to put up with that. But I thought that was very much a positive. I also thought that Omani was very positive. He was leading the line. He was acting like he looked, not unlike Bishop, the way he sort of conducted himself. I thought that was really positive. And I thought Christian Sadie was a real positive as well. I don't really share your enthusiasm for Sorensen. I think he did okay. He tried hard, but I just think at this level, you need a bit better than trying hard. I have no idea why he took the penalty. Absolutely no idea why.
It was weak, wasn't it?
But why him? I don't...
Mousinho said he was the official penalty taker.
It was a weak penalty.
Mousinho said he was the designated penalty taker for the squad before the game. That's why he took the penalty. But whether he was actually
all right, then why was he the designated penalty taker then?
Yeah. That's the question.
Everyone else was drunk. My I don't know if it's positives, but my thoughts from that game was that I think they only had a few shots on 3 or 4 shots on target, but all 4 of them were like gaping wide holes in our defence, where I think that like at least 2 of them were through on goal and should have scored. So for me, we still need to work on that. And on the wingers side, it was Ogilvy that played, and they do play as a wing back, which is great. But I'd like to see us play inside forwards rather than an overlapping winger. I'd like to see Murphy switch to the right hand side, and I'd like to see Paddy Lane back on the left, cutting in. Okay, Mahoney did score from a cross on the header, but I just don't think we have. If we had Bishop playing, then I could understand that. I get that. He's a strong header, but I just don't think that we've got that prolificity of heading in the squad at the moment, and I think we should be. I think the wingers should be swapped over inside forwards. And okay, when the crosses can come in from the overlapping wing backs, then we'd have more opportunities to score. I don't know what you guys think of that.
Well, I think Sorensen was supposed to be an inside forward, because obviously he's not supposed to be playing too wide, because Williams should have been overlapping and giving that width on that right hand side, so that the front 3 should and were a lot closer together, and that's what gave us the more attacking options and chances, I think, in the game, and also, it produced that whirlwind of intensity in the first sort of 5-10 minutes in the first half, because we had so many players forward. But as you say, at certain times of the game, we were left wide open with balls through the middle, and McIntyre's so slow. It's just terrible, really. He's great in the air, but I don't think he's any better than Towler at the moment. I feel really sorry for Towler. I don't think Towler, deserved to be moved out for McIntyre.
Agree. Yeah.
But that's.
I'd go with McIntyre over Towler personally.
Well, that was, I think, you're probably right. He's got the more experience, but I don't think Towler's done much wrong, to be honest, so far this season. But we'll see. I mean, it was good to see that Mousinho can tactically change things and give us more attacking options at home with the personnel he's got. So that was a positive for me. Obviously, disappointing to not win the game when we should have done, but
I thought we should have won that. To be honest with you, I thought we did enough to have won the game. Really, I thought, I'm kind of somewhere in between you both on Sorensen. I thought, there was some moments he had some quite quick feet and looked quite skillful, but he also looked a bit like he was quite easily just brushed off the ball by much stronger defenders. I think one thing we haven't mentioned there is that Mousinho changed the goalkeeper, which I thought was, I did wonder if he'd do that or not. I wondered if he'd sort of stick with Norris and think, surely that's not going to happen again. You're a number one. I'm going to put faith in you and try and do that and build him up and everything. But I thought to change it was quite brave. And that first half was extremely cagey, wasn't it? It really did feel cagey, and then missing that penalty and everything as well. But I thought they sort of battled on, and overall the whole game, I thought the keeper did all right, made one particularly decent save.
And that was crucial, that save to the left at that point in the game, I thought, because we could have unravelled if that had gone in.
Yeah.
I'm really surprised that you swapped out Norris, because, why would you take off the player with the most assists for the season?
Well, he was absolutely terrible at Stoke, wasn't he?
Yeah, that was the joke, Reece. He gave them 4 assists.
So what do we make of Schmidt? He clearly wasn't. He's not a ball playing.
Great kicker, isn't he?
What do we make? What do we make of him?
Fantastic kicker.
You get some distance, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Almost no backlift, and he's hit the other penalty area. So
and quite often
he played the long ball a bit.
Was it too straight though? My frustration was that it was far too straight.
It's 2024, mate. You're
not that.
I noticed his starting position's a bit higher up the pitch than Norris's.
Yeah, I didn't notice that myself.
And I think he commands the box quite well.
Yeah, I was impressed, and I purposely left him out of when I was going on about have we signed a better player in each position, because after that game the jury's out of whether he's a better keeper for me. I guess time will tell.
Did he have much chance with their goal?
A bit of a deflection, didn't it?
Yeah. Another thing we haven't mentioned from that game is the substitutions, which I know, Tim, particularly infuriated you and I when we met up after the game. To me, Sadie and O'Mahony looked like they'd finally got the game by the scruff of the neck and were our best chance of scoring, and then suddenly both of them went off and they didn't look that knackered to me. Obviously, I'm not, they might have been waving to the manager to come off. But
Mahoney had a groin, they had a groin tweak, they said.
Okay.
I think Mousinho said that in his post-match, didn't he? Yeah. But at the time, I was thinking, why have we taken him off? I agree.
Yeah, you had a few more
doing well
in there though when you said that.
So Mousinho and his coaches, they're very data driven. So they've got their physios and medical teams and everything, and they're constantly assessing the game, players through the game. And I think this is how modern football is. That if the computer tells them that one player is beyond his physical capacity to continue, they take them off. There's no. I don't think there's that much instinct and judgment anymore. I think it's all data driven, and they could tell when a player's tiring just because they can crunch the numbers, and they've obviously got like a spreadsheet or a bar graph or a pie chart or whatever it is that tell them that this player needs to be taken off and another player put on. So we walked out just right at the death, me and my son, and there was a few people leaving the Fratton end, really letting rip that Blair had come on again, because they were really not impressed that he came on, and possibly for the similar reasons that you said, Jamie, is that we seem to be looking like we were going to score, but the substitutions just really neutered the game for the last 5-10 minutes, and we didn't put that last 5-10 minutes of pressure on that we wanted, really. The game sort of petered out.
I think for the substitute for bringing Blair on, I think the problem he had was he played all his cards with strikers, because we went with everything we had on the pitch, and we needed someone to play up front, and he was the closest to being a striker that we had, really.
Yeah, but he brought him on.
But it disrupted the game.
He brought him on before Lane, didn't he? So I don't know. We've seen Lane play on the right.
It was a bit windy. Lane would have been blown off the pitch.
Possibly. Well, I was, after the horrific show of Stoke, it was a good performance, and we've got back to where we were before with the Sheffield United performance, but we're not winning games as we were expecting to. We were expecting to have at least one win by this time this season, and we've only got 5 draws. The encouraging thing is that this time last season, Sheffield United only had 2 points from 9 games, I think it was, and they managed to stay up quite easily. So it's not all doom and gloom. I mean, generally, if we get, so let's say we get Yengi back. Who else is near? If we get Yengi and Lang back for the QPR game, how confident are you all that we can finally get a win there?
For me, I mean, and I don't know whether get lambasted for this, but does anybody think Pack is looking a little bit past it and not
Yes.
beefy enough in midfield? Because last season we relied heavily on his passing and everything else, but we were playing possession football. I'm just wondering whether he's got the physical capacity to really be effective in this season, because the players are shutting players down. The ball is being moved so much more quickly, and to me, is he just looking a bit pedestrian? Is this going to be a season just a little bit too much for him?
I thought on Saturday he really frustrated me on Saturday, because I don't think the problem was the back four. I think they were getting no protection from midfield at all, and Pack, like you say, he looked tired, he looked slow. He kept going for the big Hollywood passes, which 1 or 2 of them come off, but they hit a couple over Murphy's head, and it was a really frustrating performance. And I think that then rubbed off on Potts, because I thought Potts had a bit of a shaky game as well, and I thought that's where we lost the game, was in centre midfield. But I'm with you. But we were talking about centre midfielders on the last pod, and you take him out, what have you got in terms of experience? There's no experience in the centre of the park at all. In fact, the player that seems to have, in some people's minds, seems to have improved dramatically over the last few weeks is Moxon. Loads of people go, oh God, we need to bring Moxon back in. We need to bring. I can't believe Moxon's not.
Well,
but
he hasn't. He hasn't proved he can't play at this level yet, because he hasn't had a chance. So I mean, I just quickly before you other guys put your opinions forward, is I want us to play wing backs and be more attacking at home. Great tick. Mousinho's done that, and it seemed to work mostly for the game. Away from home, and I'm glad you brought this up, Phil. I really think we need a midfield 3. I really think that we need a couple of defensive midfielders and then a central midfielder who can join and link up tacks. Not Sadie, because obviously he plays further up. I'd want to see that an attacking midfielder that could, once we've got the ball, can join a front 3 and build up attacks. Because I like you, Phil, I'm not sure Pack's had the greatest start to the season, and he's not being helped by the way that we're playing. I think if we played a midfield 3 away, especially away from home, give us that solidity, try and build into games and see if we can get a lead that we can hang on to, especially against some of the better sides. Then, I mean, the gung-ho approach has worked up until a point where we scored, a couple of goals, we scored quite a few goals away, but we obviously can't keep it out at the other end either. So I think a much more pragmatic approach away from home with a midfield 3, would help. So what do you guys think?
I'll try anything at this point, mate, to be honest. So to answer your original question, I'm not massively hopeful, but I will be delighted to see those 2 come back into the squad. I think we all will. They're great, Lang's quality is sorely missing. He's one of our best players. I think he, Murphy, and Sadie, the surprise to me, have been our best players so far this season.
Yeah, can't disagree with that.
Tim? I wouldn't rush Yengi back into the side.
First.
I wouldn't rush Yengi. Personally, wouldn't rush Yengi back into the side. I think from the one thing I did get from Saturday was that O'Mahony's sort of close to making that his position to lose, really, rather than holding it, sort of keeping it warm for someone else.
But that's a good point. But previously we've had nothing off the bench to replace him. Having someone on the bench to replace him would be a good plus. Tim?
Yeah, I kind of agree with a lot of that, really. I think, Pack's start to the season hasn't been brilliant, but I can't see him getting dropped at all. Totally agree with the fact that when you're playing with a lot of possession, it's great. He can act like a quarterback, pinging balls around and looking superb. Difficult when you hardly have a touch of the ball and the ball's coming through the midfield so quickly. I'd say I thought Potts has done okay, to be honest with you, since he's been in. He hasn't done anything particularly fantastic, but he looks very efficient with the ball. Probably difficult again when you're playing in a side that's getting sort of torn apart at Stoke and things like that to really make much of an impact. But yeah, absolutely, we need Lang back, 100%. He's been important for us so far this season. And yeah, totally agree. Because having Yengi on the bench, it's a better option than Blair, in my opinion. It'll be good to see what he can do. He hasn't really played much for quite a while now. Desperately need those options back. Shaughnessy as well, back into the defence. Farrell into left back. There's just some hope there, isn't there, with the fixtures we've got coming up and some of the players we've hopefully got coming back.
Yep. Anyone else? No. Okay. Fair enough. I've got tickets to QPR. Me and the boy going. Fingers crossed that it doesn't turn into another away horror show. I wanted to do something a little bit lighter because obviously we're spending every couple of weeks, grinding Pompey down into a mush and spitting it out at another end, and it's not an uplifting pod. So I wanted to just pose the question to all of you that something that came to my mind the other day is what do you actually call a group of pundits? I don't think I've ever heard anyone describe a group of pundits as anything. So I'm just before you give me your answers, and I'll do my answer at the end. I wanted to give us a few examples of just how bad punditry can be sometimes. One of our favourites, I don't know if people remember him, Ron Atkinson, used to come up with some absolute gems when he was doing the ITV coverage. And a couple from him that I'll read you now is that's not the type of header you want to see your defender make with his hand. And either side could win it, or it could be a draw. So that's we're up again. And whilst I was researching this, Michael Owen has produced a million boneheaded things to say, which is unsurprising because he's not the most interesting of men. But I think when Gordon Strachan was managing, he was always quality for a bit of punditry, and so I'll read you a couple that I found on here, and the last one is a bit risque, so I hope our audience doesn't worry about it. So whilst I think he was a Coventry manager, so Gordon, in what areas do you think Middlesbrough were better than you today? And pointing to the pitch, Strachan says mainly that big green one out there. And then commenting on Wayne Rooney quite some time ago, it's an incredible rise to stardom. At 17, you're more likely to get a call from Michael Jackson than Sven-Goran Eriksson. So go on then, lay on me what you think. I know, Jamie, you've got quite a few. What your a group of pundits would be called?
Surely this is where ChatGPT comes in, and we've got.
I didn't think of that. I didn't think of that.
I've got 10, so I'll probably like Colonel as working in IT.
Reece, you go first then. What are you going in?
Well, the 10 that came out of ChatGPT, which is just a very very simple. What's a funny name for a group of pundits? Number 1 was the Blabber Brigade. 2 was Opinionators Anonymous, Spin Doctors United, the Wisecrack Pack, the Echo Chamber Choir, the Chatterbox Collective, Masters of None, Hot Takes and Headaches, the Talking In Heads, and the Soapbox Squad.
Well, I think that proves that AI is a bucket of shit, isn't it? But thanks for trying, Reece.
Time was against me, so.
Well, you work in IT. What are you going to do? Tim?
To be really boring, I suppose you'd call it a panel of pundits, wouldn't you, if you're going to use a collective noun for it? But
yeah, you're right. That is boring.
A couple of other ones I was thinking would be quite good would be you could have a drivel of pundits or a gobshite. Is what I came up with.
I like gobshite. What did you come up with, Phil?
I had an opinion of pundits and a gaff of pundits.
Yeah, definitely a gaff. Yeah, opinion. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they are paid for opinions, but they rarely give good ones, do they? So, so
The other
Jamie,
ones I had aren't suitable for a family podcast. So,
well, it isn't a family podcast, so please, I mark it on Spotify that it is a with adult content. So you crack on. You give us your best shots.
American football with adult language. Is that right, Scott?
Well, don't berate me about that again. I will try and change it if I can. But anyway,
big in China.
Yeah.
Well, Sweden apparently.
Again, I did use AI, which we all know is complete bollocks, and I can say bollocks because this is a non-family show. Tim, I got yours, the official ones. I got a panel or a commentary. So those are two. But what I did was I just looked at amusing ones of just general things. And obviously there's with five of us, there's a veritable swarm of us in tonight. So these are the ones I came out with. They just amused me. So a parliament of owls, a leap of leopards, a dazzle of zebras, a kindle of kittens, a bloat of hippos, and I know a few of us can relate to that one, a romp of otters, a tower of giraffes, a sleuth of bears, a business of ferrets, a flamboyance of flamingos, my personal favourite, a conspiracy of lemurs, a pandemonium of parrots, and again, a few of us here, a prickle of porcupines. And whilst the ones I'm going to choose, I nearly went for a murder of crows, as in we murdered that last podcast. But what I'm eventually going to go with is strawberries and suggest that we are a punnet of pundits.
Ah, very good. Very good. So I came up with a mixed metaphor of pundits. That was the one that I came up with, and I did not use any artificial intelligence, rubbish or otherwise. So
intelligence.
Or any intelligence. Yeah. Well,
Daughter of milk.
I didn't say it was going to be good. I just said it was going to be hopefully funny. But some of that was funny, and some of it wasn't. But there we go. So thanks, guys. Pompey are not enjoyable to watch or chat about at the moment. So we've got to make the best of it and make light of it. So what are your predictions for QPR, Reece? If you'd like to go first,
it's got to come some point, hasn't it? I think, as Tim mentioned earlier, the return of two or three players, I think, really could make the difference. I just think we've got to be tight. I think that was part of the problem with Stoke. We just seemed so open for an away game. I think that contributed heavily towards the 6-1 defeat. I just think we've got to keep it tight, and you just got to battle it out and just eat. Especially playing away, you keep it 0-0. The pressure starts to kind of grow on the home team. So I think if we can just keep it tight, on paper a draw would be okay. Maybe it's not what we need right now, but I just think we need to keep it tight and just see if we can nick something. We just got to grind out a win, and I think once we do that and get some key players back, I think we'll. And considering the opposition between now and Christmas, I think our fortunes will turn. But what do you do? Score predictions? Go 1-0 Pompey.
Okay, Tim.
Yeah, I'm always going to go for a win, regardless of how bad it gets. I'm going 2-1. We're going to get the 3 points this time, and it's going to start the turn of our fortunes.
Good. I'm back. I'm glad we're back on the positivity, Phil.
3-0 Pompey.
Come
on.
It's happening.
Come on.
3-0, Jamie.
What?
You laugh at me now.
What's he drinking in that little pot of red juice there? What?
Sponsored by Wow Hydrate.
Do you know what? I really think we can improve on last time, and so I'm going to go 6-2 QPR.
Whoa. Okay, cool. Can I just say there are other energy drinks are available, and Phil is hopefully not getting paid for his sponsorship. I hope we win as well. I think you're right, Reece, that there is the opportunity if we could just a lucky win. We've been unlucky to draw and unlucky not to get that 3 points in other matches. So we just need someone else it's someone else's turn to play badly, and we take advantage of that. that's my hope for QPR. So let's see what we do. I reckon 2-1 win with a Lang winner if he returns. Thanks very much, guys. Another great episode. I hope you enjoy yourselves in the next couple of weeks and Pompey get the win that we really all crave, because it'd be nice to be able to do one of these podcasts where we're a little bit more glowing with praise with players and with the team itself. So play up Pompey, and we will convene again in a couple of weeks. Take care, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.